Hello students, and welcome to another curious journey with the Pillow Professor. Tonight, we're venturing beneath the leaves, under the soil, and into one of the most organized and fascinating empires on Earth, the world of ants. These tiny creatures may be small, but they live in societies that rival our own in complexity, strategy, and resilience. Ants wage wars, farm crops, keep livestock, build vast underground cities, and even enslave their neighbors. So, fluff that pillow, dim the lights, and let's begin our gentle descent into the realm of these six-legged masterminds. And while you're drifting into the tunnels with us, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more sleepy science, and comment below where in the world you're tuning in from. Ants are insects, which means they have 6 legs, segmented bodies, and an exoskeleton made of chitin. They belong to the same order as bees and wasps, called Hymenoptera, and they've been crawling around for more than 100 million years. Each ant has 3 distinct body parts: the head, thorax, and abdomen. But what really sets them apart is something called the petiole, a little waist segment that gives them that signature ant pinched look. They also have bent antennae, strong mandibles for biting or carrying, and many species have a stinger at the rear. Their bodies might look basic, but their behavior? Far from it. They communicate using chemicals called pheromones, and they're capable of forming complex colonies that behave almost like a single superorganism. So while each ant seems tiny and simple, together they become something far more powerful than the sum of their parts. Ant societies are ruled by a queen, or sometimes more than one, whose main job is to lay eggs. The rest of the colony is made up of sterile female workers who build tunnels, forage for food, care for the young, and protect the nest. Then there are males, called drones, whose only job is to mate with queens and then die shortly after. The workers are the real heart of the colony. They don't just run errands, they organize traffic, communicate threats, and make decisions collectively using chemical signals. Some colonies contain just a few dozen ants, while others, like those of the Argentine ant, can include billions, stretching across entire continents. Every ant has a role, and every movement has a purpose, making the colony feel more like a living, breathing machine. The queen ant isn't a ruler in the human sense. She doesn't boss the others around. Her power comes from reproduction. In her prime, she can lay thousands of eggs every single day. Before she becomes a queen, she was just another winged female, part of a mating flight that happens during the warmer months. If she successfully mates, she'll store sperm for the rest of her life, sometimes for decades, and establish a new colony by herself. To begin the process of becoming a queen, she rips off her wings, digs a tiny chamber, and begins laying eggs in complete isolation. Once the first workers are born, they take over the chores, and the queen settles into her lifelong egg-laying routine. If the queen dies and no replacements are around, the colony usually collapses. So in many ways, the entire operation hinges on her continued health and productivity. Ants don't talk, and they can't hear the way we do. Instead, their main language is smell. They use chemicals called pheromones to send messages about food, danger, and even death. When a worker finds food, it lays a trail of scent back to the colony. Other ants follow this trail, reinforcing it with their own pheromones until there's a highway of ants marching to and from the source. If there's danger nearby, a different pheromone might be released, triggering defense behaviors or retreat. They even mark their dead with specific chemicals, signaling to other ants to remove the bodies from the nest. Some species can leave over a dozen types of messages using these chemical signals. So even without voices, ant colonies hum with communication, silent to us, but deafening to them. Ants are expert builders. Using nothing but their jaws and teamwork, they create sprawling underground cities with chambers, ventilation shafts, nurseries, and even food storage. Some tropical species build nests that reach several meters deep, with complex tunnels designed to control humidity and temperature. Others, like leafcutter ants, craft elaborate fungus farms inside carefully regulated chambers. Then there are weaver ants, who build their homes in trees by stitching leaves together using silk produced by their larvae. These are not random piles of dirt or leaves, they're engineered habitats. Ant colonies adapt their architecture to the local environment, solving engineering challenges that would stump many human builders. And they do it all without blueprints or project managers, just instinct, cooperation, and lots of tiny legs. Not all ants are peaceful gardeners or builders, many are warriors. Some species, like army ants, are known for their brutal raids, sweeping through forests like a tide and devouring everything in their path. Bulldog ants from Australia are among the most aggressive and venomous, with powerful stings and sharp mandibles. There are even ants that enslave others. The Amazon ant, for example, raids neighbouring colonies, stealing pupae and raising the stolen ants as workers for their own nest. Ant warfare is coordinated and strategic, often involving scouts, ambushes, and retreats. While they're small, ants fight with a ferocity and discipline that mirrors the greatest military forces of history. Long before humans figured out farming, ants were already doing it. Leafcutter ants harvest bits of leaves not to eat, but to feed a special fungus. They cultivate this fungus in underground gardens and feed on its fruiting bodies. They even weed the gardens and use antibiotics to keep harmful molds away. Some ants also tend to aphids like livestock, protecting them from predators in exchange for honeydew, a sugary substance the aphids produce. This mutual relationship benefits both sides, and it's a perfect example of ant sophistication. So, they don't just find food, they grow it, raise it, and harvest it, turning their nests into tiny farms with astonishing precision. Some ant colonies don't just stop at the backyard, they go global. The Argentine ant, for example, has formed a super colony stretching across multiple countries. All the ants within this super colony recognize each other as part of the same group, meaning they don't fight, they cooperate. That allows them to outcompete native ants wherever they spread and dominate entire ecosystems. This massive unity is rare in nature and helps explain how some ant species become so invasive. They're not just a colony anymore, they're a continent-spanning empire. Ants live on every continent except Antarctica. They thrive in deserts, rainforests, cities, and even inside your walls. Part of their success comes from their adaptability. Different species have evolved to exploit nearly every niche imaginable. Some live in acorns, others tunnel through wood. There are ants that float on water, others that glide from trees, and even some that can withstand flooding by forming rafts out of their own bodies. When the environment changes, ants don't complain, they evolve. And because their colonies are so flexible, they can shift strategies fast, reacting as a group to whatever nature throws their way. What's it like being an ant? For a worker, the day is filled with chores. Some care for the queen and the young, others forage for food, walking long distances relative to their tiny size. Some act as guards at the nest entrance, inspecting every returning ant by scent to ensure they belong. Others clean the nest or carry waste to special trash chambers. Each job is vital, and the ants switch roles as needed. There's no laziness, no confusion, just endless purpose and teamwork. And the moment danger appears, they shift from chores to combat in a heartbeat. Once a year, something strange happens. Winged males and virgin queens leave their nests in great swarms, taking to the sky for a massive yet chaotic and brief mating flight. The males die shortly after mating, while the fertilized queens search for a place to start a new colony. However, most don't survive. They're eaten, crushed, or fail to establish a nest. But the few who do, they become founders of the next generation. Whilst this ritual happens quietly around us, often unnoticed, it's one of the most important events in the ant world, the birth of new dynasties in mid-air. While ants usually go unnoticed, they sometimes cause trouble. Carpenter ants can damage wooden structures, and fire ants can sting painfully and spread rapidly. In agriculture, some ants protect pests like aphids, making crop management harder. Invasive species like the Argentine ant displace local wildlife, disrupting ecosystems. But not all interactions are negative. Ants aerate soil, eat pests, and contribute to biodiversity. They're nature's cleanup crew, often doing more good than harm, even if they occasionally invade your kitchen. Our relationship with ants is complicated, but it's one we're increasingly learning to understand and appreciate. Ants may have tiny brains, but collectively they're brilliant. They can solve mazes, find the shortest path to food, and adapt to obstacles quickly. Some species vote with their feet, choosing the best new nest site through majority movement. Their decision-making is decentralized, meaning no single ant is in charge. This system allows them to respond flexibly and efficiently. It's called swarm intelligence, and scientists study it to design better robots, networks, and even computer algorithms. So when you see an ant trail, you're looking at a living model of collective intelligence, tiny minds creating massive solutions. Ants have been around since the days of dinosaurs. Fossilized ants dating back over 90 million years have been discovered, looking surprisingly similar to modern species. Despite climate shifts, extinction events, and human expansion, ants have endured. Their secret: flexibility, unity, and relentless focus on survival. Studying ants today helps us understand everything from evolution to cooperation to sustainable design. Their longevity isn't just fascinating, it's inspiring. Because in the ever-changing world of nature, ants remain a symbol of enduring, quiet power. Throughout history, ants have made their way into folklore, fables, and spiritual traditions. In Greek mythology, the Myrmidons were warriors created from ants. Aesop's fable of the ant and the grasshopper taught generations about the value of hard work. In some cultures, ants are symbols of discipline, strength, or even reincarnation. Farmers in ancient times observed ant behavior to predict rain or drought. Even today, they appear in literature, cartoons, and science fiction, often embodying themes of unity, perseverance, or unstoppable force. They may be small, but their presence in our stories is anything but. Some ants are so dedicated to their colony that they've evolved to self-destruct. The Camponotus sondersi is an ant species from Southeast Asia that literally explodes with sticky, toxic goo when threatened. If a predator threatens the colony, the ant will contract its muscles so hard that its body ruptures, spraying the enemy with the noxious substance. It's a final act of defense, sacrificing itself to save the nest. This kind of suicidal behavior, known as autothysis, is rare in the animal kingdom but surprisingly common in ants. It shows just how far evolution has pushed their cooperation, even to the point of death. And while it might seem extreme, it's often enough to turn away would-be attackers. There's a species of ant that doesn't raise its own young, it kidnaps them instead. These are known as slave-making ants, and their tactics are as chilling as they sound. One notorious example is the polyergus ant. Instead of doing their own foraging or brood care, these ants raid nearby nests of a different species. They steal the pupae and bring them back home. Once hatched, the kidnapped ants clean, feed, and serve the slave makers. The raiding parties are fast and aggressive, often targeting the same colonies over and over. Without their abducted workers, the slave-making ants would starve. It's a sinister system, but a highly effective one. In the world of ants, even something that sounds like science fiction can just be an everyday occurrence. Ants don't just survive in deserts, some of them thrive there. The Cataglyphis genus, found in the blazing Sahara, includes the world's fastest ants. These silver-coated sprinters can run across the hot sand at speeds of nearly 1 meter per second. Not bad for an insect just a few millimeters long. They time their foraging carefully, venturing out during the hottest part of the day when most predators are hiding from the heat. Their long legs keep their bodies above the scorching surface, and they use the position of the sun to navigate. Even after traveling far in search of food, they can find their way back home in a straight line. These desert ants are heat-proof, clever, and beautifully adapted to a world that seems almost impossible to survive in. As strange as it sounds, some ants become zombies. The culprit? A parasitic fungus called Ophiocordyceps. It infects an ant by releasing spores that take over its body and mind. The fungus compels the ant to climb to a high spot, clamp onto a leaf or twig, and then wait. Eventually, the ant dies, but the fungus bursts from its body and rains spores down on unsuspecting ants below. The fungus even targets specific ant species and knows exactly how to manipulate their nervous system. And it doesn't just kill, it puppeteers. Scientists study Ophiocordyceps to understand mind control in nature, and what they've found is as disturbing as it is fascinating. In the rainforest, horror doesn't need a movie screen. It's playing out every day on the forest floor. Ants aren't just fascinating, they're important indicators of environmental health. As temperatures rise and ecosystems shift, scientists are using ants to track the impact of climate change. Because they're sensitive to moisture, temperature, and soil conditions, changes in ant populations can signal deeper problems in the environment. Some species are disappearing from their traditional ranges, while others are expanding into new areas. Ants also play roles in seed dispersal and soil turnover, meaning their absence can affect plant life and other animals. By studying ant behavior and migration, researchers can make predictions about broader ecological trends. These tiny creatures may help us understand, and perhaps even mitigate, the long-term effects of a warming planet. It turns out the ants aren't just surviving change, they're helping us see it coming. And so, students, as we rise from the tunnels and dust off the soil, we leave behind a world that's as old as time and as intricate as any civilization we've ever known. Ants may be tiny, but their stories are enormous. They teach us about cooperation without ego, survival through adaptability, and power through unity. In their quiet determination and tireless work, they've built empires beneath our feet, unnoticed, yet unstoppable. Whether farming fungi, defending their colonies, or navigating global supercolonies, ants remind us that intelligence doesn't always need words. So next time you see a single ant carrying a crumb 10 times its size, remember, you're witnessing a lifetime of purpose in miniature. Rest well, students.